us to finish up on, especially when it comes to that thing, especially when it comes to our JavaScript. So yesterday we looked at the concept of inputting data. That is what we looked at, the importance of inputting data, and then but then I said that in a real world scenario, our data is sent to a server. That is how we do. We send our data to a server. So that is what we do. But now, as I said, that we haven't done the database part yet, so I wouldn't talk about the server. I wouldn't talk about the connection to servers and things like that, because there is a lot that needs to go on there. But like we're understanding the aspect of input, how do we send information, and how do we capture information that is written in forms? That is the first thing that you needed to do. And then today, I just want us to continue from there. Now, today I want us to look at something called validation. That is what I want us to do. I want us to look at validation there. So, um, with validation there. So that is what I want us to do today. So let us look at that. We don't have a lot of time today, and I want us to at least knock off around 4 o'clock. So let's see. All right. So now with validation, I'm simply going to open up the stuff that we did yesterday. That's where I'm going to open up, and then we're going to continue from there. Then we're just going to edit this particular form that we had from yesterday. This is a form that we're going to edit. And then I'm just going to add some concepts when it comes to that. So we're just adding up from where you left off yesterday. So let me share my entire screen so that we can continue from there. So now, there we go. And then I need to run this. I'm just waiting for it to run. I hope it's the one. Okay, so now let's just see. So I was just waiting for my website to start up. Oh, it started actually, and I didn't even realize that. Okay, there we go. And then we've got your input there. You've got your email address and stuff, and then you've got your message that you have written there at the bottom. So let's say now, like for instance, if I write here, so let's say this. Um, Then I've got an email address here, and then let's say my email address is this. And then I write a message, hi, please add me to your mailing list. Then from there, the moment that I press here, submit, it submits all the information, and then it starts. and then it removes the message from there. So now, how then do we put it in such a way that, okay, we want to maintain this information that we have? How do we then, like, let's say after you submit, let's say you want a message that will pop out and say maybe data has been submitted, something like that. Like, we want just to put some data validation, we want to validate the email address that the person puts, so that we can see that that particular email address that has been put in also is somehow valid. We want to see all that stuff there. So that is what you want to see today. So I'm going to change our code just a little bit. There are certain aspects of our code that we're going to change so that I can show you a variation, especially when it comes to the code, how we work around with the code. But I'm not going to change much work when it comes to the design of the form. I'm just going to leave the form the way it is. I'm not going to change the form to anything. So I'm just going to leave the form the way it is. But then the rest of the things I'm going to change. So especially when it comes to the what you call the JavaScript code there. So just allow me to mute my sound a little bit because there's a bit of noise. Sorry, guys. So anyway, I was saying that I need to change a few things here in our form. So the things that I'm going to change are basically related to the JavaScript side. That is the stuff I need to, yeah, that is the stuff that I need to change here. I just need to change the Java related stuff only. That is the only stuff that I'm dealing with. As I say, that we're dealing with a code for validation. So that is what we're going to do. So now I'm going to change some of the code. Like let me delete this code here that I have so that you guys can get a clue, because I'm going to change a few, like on how the form looks. I'm going to change a bunch of things there on how the form looks. So I'm going to do that. Yesterday, this was just showing you how to create your data without doing much, basically. So today, what we're going to do that, but we're dealing with validation today. Remember that. So I'll write a comment here: JavaScript code for validation. JavaScript code for. So now we're going to start here. Our script is going to start here. So now notice yesterday we had a doc something, isn't it? But today I want us to go straight to the point. Today we're going to do this. I'm going to explain the code again as we did yesterday. Dot get remember element. Notice today I didn't declare. I just went straight to the point. And then we having our form. Yo, I forgot the name. Oh, it's called contact form. So inside here, contact form. I hope you guys can hear me. Dot. Now notice here, I'm adding an event listener just here. And then from there, the event listener is called submit. So notice our code changes a little bit, but as I said, that I will explain what all this means just in a GB. And then from there, and then we've got a function here for calling out a function, and that function there is for the event. I'll just show you the difference with the one that we had yesterday. With the difference that we had yesterday. Okay, what am I doing there? And then like this. So I'll rather have. Okay, I'll deal with the brackets as we go. Oh, notice here, and then from here now I have to add that event thingy that we had dot prevent. I'm pretty sure you guys now have fixed with this part here, prevent default, and then open close that. So now let's just give you an explanation here of what we just did. So as we did yesterday, notice yesterday when we did this, I'm trying to see if I can do this. Okay, let me do this. Let me reopen this thing from yesterday so that you guys can see the difference between those two. Then I will explain that. Oh, okay, since I've deleted it anyway. So anyway, yesterday, what we had was something that was like this. Yesterday we had const form, and then we had a const form. Okay, let me just write that const. Then we had a form, and then we say that this form here, we declared it as a variable. So basically we say we're getting a form element. That is what we're simply doing. We're getting a form element from this part here. I'm going to copy this code, that document here, because this is what we did yesterday. So I'm going to copy this part. I'm just showing you what we did yesterday. Yesterday we had something like this. What by ID, and then we had terminated that, and then from there, and then we just went straight to the point, and then we went back, and then we had exactly the same thing here, and then but yesterday what we had was this. I'm just showing you. Then we wrote this somewhere down here. yesterday, remember, because we declared it as a form. So now we come and we say form dot. That was yesterday, isn't it? So it was something like this. I need to close this here, and I need to close that. So now notice this is something that we had yesterday, but our submit, and then instead of saying function yesterday, instead of saying function, we actually wrote the name of the function, and we called the name of the function, we called it a handle submit. That is a function that we called yesterday. So that is the name that we called this particular function yesterday. You notice that that's what we did. So now the question now was then how how are these two things similar? These two, how are they similar? This and that, how are they similar? But the only difference now with this is today we just wrote everything in one line instead of trying to separate and writing these things in their forms and things like that. We just went to yesterday we went to the point and we wrote them as functions, like we declared them and wrote them as functions, and we separated them according to those functions that we. So now I was explaining that here that yesterday. So these were the things that we're dealing with yesterday. So we just had to separate those things there, but there isn't much difference. Or with today, notice today is basically the same thing, but now I just wrote these things in a different way, just to show you that you can literally write exactly the same thing, but in a different way. We can write the same thing in a different way. Because yesterday, after this part here, and then we went straight, and then we wrote a function, and then we called that function, and that function there, and then after we called it, and then we called it handle submit, and then from there, and then we say that it's supposed to handle an event like this. Notice exactly the same thing that we have. Okay, and then there's this part here, and then where we say it event dot prevent default. Open, close, something like that. So notice everything that we have here is written, like here we wrote it in 4 lines, but here everything is written in 2 lines. Basically the same thing. So now document.get element by ID. So what elements are getting ID? We are getting from contact form. That is what we're doing. We're getting the information from the contact form there. And then after getting it from the contact form, and then we're adding a listener. The listener is in submit button and it's calling out a certain function. That's what this listener is doing. It's calling out a certain function. Now, this function that's been called, notice here, I opened the bracket. I said add listener. I opened a bracket and I didn't close that bracket there for that. The bracket is still open. And this here, square bracket here, that starts and this squidgy bracket that you have, or the curly bracket that you have, once it opens inside the event. It's opening inside the event. So which means each and every code that we have to write now, we're writing inside. So from here now, what's the next thing? The next thing is to get information from the form. That is the next thing that we're doing. Exactly the same thing that we did yesterday. So now information from the form. Let me write it like that. Get input from the form. That is the next thing there. We're getting input from the form. So now to get input from the form, we've got var. Notice difference. Yesterday I said const, and today I'm saying var. Exactly thing. The only difference is that when I'm saying const, I'm saying that the name of the variable cannot change. But if I'm saying var, is the name of the variable can change. That is the only difference that's there. But like when you're inputting there, it doesn't really matter whether you're going to use const or you're going to use var. It's up to you. So I would suggest that, especially if you're working with values that change a lot, use var. But if you're working with values that do not change, and then just use const. So here I'm going to call out document again. Document and then dot, we're getting element now. So get element by ID, something like that. And then from there, and then I'm getting the name. That is one. That is the first thing that I'm getting. Notice we're still doing the same thing like what we did yesterday, but I'm just adding something else. Value dot trim. Let me explain what value dot trim means. So now with value dot trim, right? It's basically the same thing as I said that you are dealing like it's the same thing that we were simply dealing with yesterday. But now I'm simply saying just get the exact value that I'm saying that I want. That's what I'm simply saying there. Value dot trim, that's what it simple means there. So in JS, the value dot trim is not a function, it's nothing, it's just a method. That's what it simple does. So just in case when I type a name, for instance, if I say my name is Tabo, and then I put a dot like that. If I do not put dot trim, it is going to capture the whole thing, including that space that you have. But now when you're saying dot trim removes the white space. So anything that I make a mistake, for instance, if let's say when I'm typing the name, I leave a space before and I leave a space after, value.trim is going to remove the spaces and then it's going to write my name exactly how my name is. Unlike what we were doing yesterday we were just capturing. So it doesn't matter whether there was a space or not, it was capturing everything. But if you say that value.trim, it doesn't capture everything. It captures exactly what we need. That is what value.trim simple does there. So that is what we're doing. We're simple retrieving here. So for us to retrieve there, I'm going to copy, same way thing that we did yesterday. Copy, paste, paste, snap, paste. Okay, then enter, and then paste. Okay. All right. So and then from here, I change this here. That becomes email. And this here becomes message. Then I need to change this here to email. And I need to change this here to message. But still value to trim. You see notice? So nothing else there. And then next up now, I'm not going to use console this time. So I'm going to write another comment here. Now, what I'm doing now, we've captured the information. Now, what's the next thing that I need to do? Now I need to validate. That's the next thing that I just need to do. I need to validate. Then how then do I validate? So now to validate, simple validation. This is just simple basic validation there. So now I am checking here. Check all if all fields are filled out. I'm checking if all the fields have been filled out the way that they're supposed to be. So hence I need to check. Now, if I'm using an if statement, name is, notice, 1, 2, 3. And then from there, like that. And then or, and then email, 1, 2, 3. And then or, I hope you guys still remember this message. And then like that. Now, this is what I'm simply saying. Like remember, oh snap, 1, 2, 3. Remember, 2 equal signs. 1 equal sign means a sign, that is 1 equal sign. 2 equal sign means that what is on the left is the same as what is on the right. And then 3 equal sign means the exact value. That's what 3 equal sign simple means. So it just checks if exactly what I have. So it, oh, wow, what did I do here? Okay. So that's what it simple does, is it takes the exact value according to the notes that you have. If you go ahead and check, and then there's that exact value here. So now, what then do we do? If let's say people do not fill in the information. So, okay, if I remove this code here, let me just remove this code and I close here because let me just remove that code and close there and save, for instance, and then come here and run this. Okay, and then I write the name here, Tabo, and then an email address, and then hi, and I submit. Nothing happens because the console didn't clear because I removed that code to clear the console, but it did submit somehow. Notice here, now if I write hi here, and then I remove this and I remove that. Let's say the name and the surname, I don't write anything here, and then from there, and then I come and I just write that. Notice that data will go through. I can submit. Literally, I can submit. But now that is an issue because how do I submit a form that's empty? How do I submit a form that's empty? I need to prevent my form from submitting when it's empty. That's what I need to do. Then how do I do that? Then I need to validate the data there because hi, if I do this, notice this is the only field that can stop me because this was hard coded there. So I can remove this particular part of the hard code there so that it can allow me to do that. So let me do that. Let me go to my HTML and then I remove this required there. And then if I do that and then I save, come here to the code, and now after this, then I can come and submit. This form has gone through. I can submit like that, but I'm submitting an empty form. If I had a database right now, after doing all these submissions that I have, literally I can have maybe 5, 10 inputs of someone submitting without even knowing what exactly they're submitting. If I go on my server or on my emails, I'll notice that I'll be having a lot of emails that I have that are actually showing that, oh, okay, there's someone who just submitted something, but it's blank, which means I'm busy taking up space in my database for nothing. So I need to make sure that these forms here are validated. There is a way to actually show and actually prove that no, this thing needs to be sorted out. No one is supposed to submit a form that is empty. There's supposed to be something. How do I do that? So hence, this is where we are right now, this part here, to make sure that all the fields have been filled out. So the first part was that. Was the first part. So now the first part is us dealing with that part there. Then how then do we deal with that part? How do we deal with that part? How then do we deal with that part? How? So the first thing is we want to make sure that no fields are empty. If name is empty, email is empty, the message is empty. If name or, this means or, these two lines there, or email or the message, if any of these are empty, that is what we're saying there. If any of these fields are empty there, then we're supposed to alert. We're supposed to show a message. To show a message here, we make use of something called alert. We make use of something called alert. So we say alert. Now, what alert want to put an alert here called like, okay, please, yeah, all fields. Please fill all fields. Something like that. Let me do this, put that, and close that part there. And um, and then from there, return it. Return it just means close. Let's go back and start again. That's what return means. Now, let me show you what this basically looks like. Now, after we have this, now I can do this. If I come, notice here, if I press submit, Okay. Oh, okay. I haven't actually written most of the code. I have to finish it up then because it's not responding. So I'll check why it's not responding. But anyway, I'm trying to see. But anyway, as I was saying, that this is basically what we actually have. That just shows that okay, uh, your fields are not supposed to be left empty here. No field is supposed to be left empty, but we are going to deal with this part there just now. And then next up, I want us to do the validation. So this would be maybe additional validation. Additional validation. So now in additional validation, want now to check, for instance, the email address. I think this is the only thing that we can literally validate. We're checking if the fields are empty one. So now I want to check if the email address is a valid email address or not. That is what we want to check. Then how do we check if the, oh, okay, this one I didn't check, close it there. How do we check if the email address is valid or not? How do we do that? How do we check if the email address is valid or not? Let me just see here if I do this. Okay. Okay, still not responding. Let me just finish up the code there. So, so how do you check if the email address is valid or not? We know that each and every email address is supposed to have this thing at in it, isn't it? So whenever I write an email address, it's supposed to have that at in it. So if an email address doesn't have an at in it, then it is not valid. That's what we need to do. So hence we need to do that email validation there. So how do we do that? So now we need to declare a variable for the email. For the email, but now I cannot call it email because I already have a variable called email. So email structure, it's too long. Email pattern. Email pattern. So now the pattern has to be in a certain format. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use certain things there. Okay, I will explain what this all means there, and then that, and then square bracket, and then that, and then forward slash um, s8, and then I'm gonna close that again. I think, yeah, close it, and then plus s8. Okay, trying to around see. So I'll, like as I said, I will explain. Let me just finish now. So now, okay, let me just finish here. If our not, that is what this means, email pattern. If not the email pattern, Now, validation is always the tricky part in coding. Here is always a problem to a lot of people when it comes to validation there. Okay, let's say both of these. Then the email is not valid. Okay, so now I'm gonna write something here. Tab at gmail.com. I just want to show you. Notice here, our email pattern is in a certain way. We've got this whole thing here. So this first part of the thing just means that my code starts here. And then this part that we have here shows that I've got a string here. This particular string that I have is supposed to be in a certain format. And what is the format is that particular string supposed to be? And then it's supposed to be like so. So now tab here, this part here, is represented by all this stuff that we have. So technically this, like this means that your code starts here literally, and then from there, this part here just shows you that, okay, tab starts here. That's what this part simple means there. That's what this simple means. So now, let me do this. So now my email address starts here. So actually this dash ls here, this dash s, not this ls, this dash s just talks about white spaces. That's what it simple talks about there. And then there's a lot that comes there, especially when it comes to your JS there. And then but anyway, what I'm just saying is that this part here will represent my name, and then plus. Plus means join together. What am I joining? I am joining with at. I'm joining with at. I'm joining with at here, which is that at. Notice there's a plus at. And then at what? And then at. Notice this thing that I wrote here, I also repeated here because this is just a string. That's what I'm simple saying. So hence now that part there represents that. So which means here is a string that represents your name. Then the at has to be there. And then you've got another string that you have that represents, I don't know, it can be Gmail, Outlook, whatever email that you have. And then plus. Plus means join it to something. What am I joining it? I'm joining to a dot. Hence that dot that is there. And then from there, and then I'm moving to another string, as you notice, like the same way that you wrote there. Then you've got that particular string that you have, then plus, then now this part here, you just ending up, it just removes the other white space. So we're removing white space, we're removing white space from the other side there. So that is what this particular item means. So your pattern for the email has to be in that particular format. That is how your pattern of your email is supposed to be. So you need to understand what all these characters here represent. So we'll put it in square brackets because this entire thing represents a string. So I'm simply talking about a string here. Whether you write it in capital letters or in small letters, it can have characters, it can have numbers, it can have anything. So as long as it's an email address that has got characters of string, same applies here, same applies there. That's what we're simply talking about there. So, and then the plus is the joiner. I spoke about this before, that the plus is a joiner. And then the at is an at, obviously. At a certain string that you have, and then plus, then you've got that joiner that you have. That has got, we've got plus dot something, something, something. So hence you've got that. So this here is your email. And if not pattern, so if you are not following the pattern, that's what the symbol saying. If you are not following the pattern, then show a message email is not valid. But if the pattern has been followed, then it will move on. It will give you a proper result. And what is the result going to be? And then it's supposed to give you a result that says your data has been inputted successfully, isn't it? So here, now I'll be writing, because this part here was showing that if the data is not valid. So now this part that comes up here now shows, now we want to show that, okay, the data has been put in, and then what happens afterwards. So now from here is form. What happens if the form is valid? Form is valid. So now if the form is valid, now submit your form. Submit your form. And then from there, how to submit the form there, and then you have to send an alert. And an alert. Okay, let me just copy this alert here. I do not have to return this particular part here because I don't have to return this form because it's already done. It's already been submitted there. See, so now here you can add any other code if you want. If you got code for SQL or for Ajax, then you can add that code there. But this is where other code is added. So let me just write this again. Can add other code from either SQL or Ajax or I don't know, whatever method that you're going to connect. So whichever code that you want to add, you can add it there. But for us, we're done with that part there because we're going to add other code as we go. Then now, next thing is clear the form. Clear the form because we want to clear the form, isn't it, after submitting. Successful submission, clear the form. And then how do we clear that form? Now, call your document again. Document get dot get element by ID, element by ID, and then exactly the same thing that we've been doing there. And then we've got contact form, and then dot reset, because we want to remove all the information that is inside of the form. Then we that. So now code is literally done. So notice, so this is your data validation. This is how you validate. So now let's go and check if our code is working the way that it's supposed to. Okay. Okay, let's see if I just write this and I click submit. Notice here, this page says fill all the fields because none of the fields have been filled. So like this, and say, and then let's say I leave one and then I fill those two, and then I say submit, please fill all the fields. Now, if I fill all the fields, and then in my email, I just write my email, tabo.gmail.com. I forgot the at. And then I say submit. Notice that email is not valid according to the message that I had before because my email is not valid there. So now, if I do this and then I forget the com, I forgot that .com, and then I just leave it like that. Then I say, still my email is still not valid there. So which means my email needs to be validated somehow. Then how do I validate that email? Something like this. And then I can, you can here write anything, even if you say .co.za, it's .com.za, .co.za, and then you submit. Notice a form has been submitted, what? Successfully. The moment that I press OK, notice what happens to the form. deletes all the information that has been there because I told it to reset the information that has been put. So here, this is what we call data validation. Basically what we did yesterday, but now today I just decided to come in and add some extra information for validation. The first one was checking if the fields that we have are empty or not. If there's not written anything, it shows a message that says please fill all the fields. And then the second part is checking if the email is a valid thing or not. And then you've got a certain pattern that has to be followed for the email there. So we're checking there. We've got a variable for the email pattern that was declared, and then from there, and then we call that variable in our if statement to test if the pattern matches the pattern that's been given there. If not, and then it's simply supposed to return, allow the person to do that thing again. Excuse me. And then from there, and then if the form is valid, everything has been filled in, and then supposed to show a message that says the form has been submitted successfully. And afterwards, and then after you press OK, and then it's supposed to reset that particular form. So that part here is what we call validation. So our validation here made use of, I'm sorry guys, validation here made use of if statements and things like that. This is where the if statements comes in. If statements deals with the conditions. So there are certain conditions, for instance, here with 3 conditions that have to be met, but you're making use of an or in between. So either email or name or the message. So all the fields had to be filled. So do you have any question regarding this stuff that you just covered now?
I don't know if you answered me. I sent a question in the chat box.
I don't see any questions in the chat right now.
So I was asking about that return. You know, when you are filling in maybe an email, or you're feeling, maybe you're checking out on maybe let's say Takealot, ne? And then maybe you don't enter your email, then you get that message in red to say please enter your email. Does that return play that part? Or let the user know that you still need to fill in something, you forgot to fill in something. So I thought maybe return back to, hence I was asking, what does it mean, that return? Why is it there?
No, the return simple means that the form checks, ne? After checking, and then it says stop and go back to where, like literally that's what
Oh, it
return
means
simple
go
means,
back.
stop.
Okay.
Yeah, it means stop and go and check. So as long as your form has not been validated properly, and your return will still keep on coming, and it still keeps you on the same form so that all the fields are filled until you're done. After you are done, the moment that you press, notice even in our code here, with the code that we have, after your form has been successfully filled and completed, you do not have return anymore, because you do not need to return to that particular form.
Okay. So.
Yeah. Guys, any other question? So anyway, like just to add up on that return thing in Nomfundo, so the return simple stops the submission of the form. That's what it does. It returns you to the beginning so that you can go through your entire form and check. Not literally like it will take you to the first page, depending on the information that you have, but it will stop you from moving wherever, from submitting the form. That's what the return means. Return simple means that stop whatever that you're doing, and then go back and relook at your form, go back and relook at your form and check until you meet the terms and conditions of the form. That's when you can only submit. But as long as you don't submit, return. If you do not fill anything, return. If your email address is wrong, return until you get it right.
Is it specific as to what is wrong, like what you didn't fill in? Will it specify
Uh,
to say you didn't enter something?
yeah, like in this case here, notice what we did here in this case. Let me just share my screen again. I want to do this. Okay, in this case here, I've got this form that we have. Now, if I just come here and I press submit, notice fill all the forms. So now it tells me that there's fields that are not supposed to be filled. I mean, that I haven't filled yet. So which means I need to fill in these fields. Already Return has told me what's wrong because I wrote
Yeah.
a code. I wrote instructions for that return part. So I say, okay, and then I fill in my name, and then I leave the other two. And then I go back and say this, it says, please fill in all the fields, which means there's still fields that are not filled. And then I'll go and fill in the fields there.
Until you fill everything, then it will go
E-
through.
Exactly. So
Okay.
until I fill all the fields there, there we go. And then now, the moment that I do this, so if I press submit, the form submits. See that successfully. But if it's an
Oh,
email address that I left out, for instance, I leave out my email address and then I write my name and I write my message there, hi, and then I press on that. Notice return stops me and displays a message. Email is not valid. So this simple means that wait, you cannot submit because your email is not valid. Go and fix your email address, and then after you are done, then you can submit. Then I go and check my email address. Oh, I forgot an ad. Then I put an ad there. The moment that I fix my email address and then I press submit, and then says form submitted successfully, and then I'm done.
yes, I
Click on
thank you
OK.
for this demonstration.
Okay. So the rest of you guys, no questions, nothing.
I think so, sir.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, now when it comes to JavaScript, there's a lot of elements there. There's a lot of things that we need to learn. Say that there is still a lot that we need to learn. But anyway, like this is where we're starting. We're starting from these things like, the data validations, the input, acceptance, and holding, like what we did yesterday. We learned the input part, and then today, then we looked at the validation part. And then how do we enter? How do we input? How do we do that? So um, now, what if we want to add some elements? For instance, let's say I want um, to validate a form, and then afterwards, and then I'm going to, let's say, then afterwards, I'm going to do this to the form. Let's say I'm going to, I'm trying to think here. Let's say I'm going to send it to my email address.
So are you sharing something on the screen?
No, no, not yet. I'm
Oh.
just, I'm just saying. So what if I do that? So let me do this. Um, let me do this. Let me see if I can share. As I said that I want us to be done by 4 because I've load shedding come up here. So I do not want to get some small. Okay, let's say I want to send you an email. So now, if I want to send you an email, I have to literally compose the email, isn't it? I have to compose that particular email that I have. So then how then do I do that? How do I compose that particular email that I have? So now let's look at that. So for us to compose that email there, let me see. I'm just gonna write code here. I'm just gonna continue with some code here. So now what we just need to do, just need to add a few things. That is one thing that you just need to do. You just need to add a few things there. Now, let me see here. I'm trying to see. Okay, button. Button type, which is submit there, and then I just need to add something here and on click. I need to add an on click. Doesn't really matter. I can do that and on click there, which is equals to submit. It's some bit of code there, just on this place here. I don't need a placeholder stuff, so it's fine. So I just edit that and on click. So an on click simple means that what happens after I click, of which you guys know already this. Then JS here, go back to my JS. So on my JS, so I'm just gonna get the email there and everything else. So next thing is, let's say I want to, as I said that, let's say I want to type, I want to send this information, because this is what happens. Most times, most of the forms that you guys use, they send information to the email. That's what they do. They send information to the email. So for us now to get that information, so we need to change a few things here. For instance, here, I'm simply going to write some code. That code here, I'm going to create a function. Okay, what do I do here? I'm trying to think what to do. Okay, let me do this. Let me save this. Let me save this. Let me just create sort of, okay. Let me create sort of, I'm just gonna copy this whole thing the way it is. And then I'm going to create another folder. Then I'll call it maybe web dev. No. I'm going to paste this thing. Like, so I've pasted everything that we have, and I'm going to close these things here. No, that close, that close, that close, and then I want to open this. It's still the same thing. I'm just, because I just want to edit the code. That's why I wanted to change the code a little bit. The styling, I don't really need to open the styling because I'm not going to change any styling. So I wanted this part here, the JavaScript. Notice our JavaScript here is basically that same JavaScript that we have. So I'm going to run this so that it opens. It's still the same form, if you can see now. So now I want to change this JavaScript because I want the information just to change just a little bit. I just the information just to change just a little bit. So now then for me to do that, I need to do this. I need to change because I want to send my information to the email, isn't it? So now for me to send the information to the email now, my script now, instead of saying document, because document is simply a document. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to remove this entire code here. Let me just remove this entire code here. And then I create a function. Now, this function here is called submit form because I want to submit a form. But there's a little bit of a difference there. Open, close, and where is that? Where is that? Where is that? Like this, and then there's this part here. I'm just going to close it, remove that bracket there. Notice they are form, and then all the function. Then the first part is obviously get information, and then the values and everything else. Whether they're going to be variable or constants, up to you. So leave it the way it is, and then basic validation that, and basic validation that, which is pretty cool. I'll leave it to that. And then from there, now the next thing that I want to do is I want to do this now. I want to okay. I want to write or construct something. I want to construct the email. So I want, like, remember, I'm sending an email that is from the person, and then that is being sent to my email, isn't it? So I need to construct that particular email there. So we need to construct that email. So construct. Same way that, like, most of the times whenever you fill forms, you notice that there's an email that you receive that literally consists of the message that you have sent. So that particular email there is what we need to construct. So email body, construct email body there. So now construct email body. So we're constructing the email body there. So for us to construct the email body, const email body. We've just declared a constant called email body. This is what I want. So first thing that I want is I need this. I need my email to have something like this. So I'll say what, name, and then from there, and then I need to call out values. This is how you call out values. So whenever you're dealing with an email, you call out values like that, and then from there, and then this is the name that you're calling out, and then after calling out the name, and then because you want to do this new line, notice name and then new line. So slash n just means new line. On the next line, then write the email. Is the next thing there. Then the email is going to be basically the same, and then call the email. The email capture it also from the same item there. So the email is going to be email, obviously, because that's a variable that you're capturing the email with, and then slash, and then I say new line, and then after the new line, then I want the message also to be written. Then what is the message? The message also same applies like that, and then I write the message. The message is the message. I want the message to be captured exactly the way that the message is, and we've captured all the information that you actually need from there. We've captured all the information that you actually need from there. So that is the information that we need here. So now, after we've captured all the information, now we need to send the email, isn't it? We need to send the email. So how do we then send the email there? So just give me a second. Okay, so now I was saying that you now need to send the email. So let's send the email. Send email. You want to send the email. So now, one thing is, if you in a real application, for you to send an email is something that's going to be a little bit of a process there. In a real, you need to send the data to a server and then handle the email sending from there, from the particular server that you have. We do not have a server, so we not send any email to a sender. So here we're just going to write a function that sends the email. But normally the function is going to be written in a server. That is where the function. So you're simply going to need to call the function, and this is how you call. This is how you call that particular function there. So send email body, because we're calling our function called email body there. So we send email body. So we need to send that. So we need to call out that function there, and then because of that, and then now we need to declare that particular. We need to declare that particular what you call that particular function, because we're done with this part here. So we need to declare this function here. So I'm going to remove this thing here, and then okay, so I'll do this, and then I'm going to post. And so now the function for sending email function email. If you check, guys, now you notice that here there is a lot that comes to do with sending emails and things like that. There's a lot of work there. So I'm sending the body, like for instance, if you check there, send the body of the email, and then where am I sending it to? And then like that. And then from there, and then I'm sending to a console. Console. I'm pretty sure you still remember this dot log. Then now, and then I can just say sending email with body of email there, and then like that. And then now I'll say /n, which means I'm saying line, and then from there, and then I'll call that body. And we're done. That's here. So we're done with our particular script. Done with our particular script here. We're done with our particular script there. So yeah, let me just remove this for now so that I can show you. Like so this is basically the general idea of your email. So this is here is a simulated email for your educational purposes. So now if I run this, let's check if our email goes. Then I'm just gonna write all the proper information there, and from there like hello. And then if I say submit, notice our form has been submitted successfully. Like there is nothing else that it can simply do, but it means that the email has been sent. That's what it simple means. Yeah, that's what it simple means there. That the form has been submitted. See that with that entire body there of your code. So let me see what div ml what. I just want to see if it is. So see that. So the emails also you can send them like that. Exactly the very same way you can do that. You can do exactly the same thing with your emails. So can you notice the difference? Like there isn't much difference when it comes to, so if you're dealing with an email, or it's just write a function that captures the information from the form, validates that particular form, and then construct the email body, and then from there, and then there's supposed to be a function, and then calls this particular function there, it also calls a function that submits the email for you. And then you've got that function that you have. And usually this function here is usually sent, or it's actually usually written in thingy on the other side in what you call this, in a server. That's where usually the information is written there. Let me remove those things there.
So am I right if I say the contact also needs contact numbers? You see, we
Sorry?
have a name. Am I correct or not? If I say our form needs contact list, like contact numbers, not just the name alone, or that contact us,
The
like
contact numbers.
yes, to say if maybe you are only typing in 5, to say you should type in 10 instead. Like you see on the alert, especially there by the email, you said email is
Yeah,
not valid, right? Because it didn't have an
yeah,
end. So on the
yeah.
numbers, you can also add that because maybe the contact us is for the user and not the company or the
Uh,
organization. In
remember the
this case,
contact us is it's an entire page. And this here, actually, instead of contact us, actually, I'm supposed to say contact form, not contact us, because
okay,
contact us is something else. Because contact us now deals with the entire, with your entire website. That is the contact us part. So this is supposed to be contact form, because this is a form that is filled by the user, where they fill
yes,
in your information so that you can get back to them. Hence, if you check the email that this email here that we constructed, it captures the name, the email address of the person, and the message of that
and
particular
the
person,
message that
and
we
then
want
sends
to
it
send.
to you.
Yes,
Yeah. So if
like
you need to
his
call
desk type.
them, for
Right?
instance, if you, sorry.
I was saying it's like save his desk. Like when a user is sending you an information to say maybe my laptop is not working, it's something like of that
Yeah,
sort. On the message part, they will tell you that my what's this? My screen is not switching on, for an example. And then
exactly. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So if you write your name, then Nomfundo, and then Nomfundo's email address, and then for a message say, hi, Mr. Sponello, my computer is not working, it's doing
yeah,
ABC. And
okay,
then if you have your phone number, also there's your phone number written underneath there. And then when the information is captured on the form, and then it's going to construct an email that is basically based on it. You say name, Nomfundo, email address, write Nomfundo's email address, and then writes Nomfundo's phone number, and then afterwards, and then it writes that entire message. Computer is not working, it's doing
yeah.
this, and then from there, and then it stops.
So are we gonna get to a part where you show us the message or you show us the email, like in a format of
Yes,
an on a normal person? You know, now it's computer, but for another person to understand what's happening, is it? Are you gonna get to
yes.
that point you show us?
Yes,
Okay,
we're
thank
gonna
you.
get there. Yeah,
Oh,
we're gonna get
thank
there because that is where we headed next. So like usually when you're dealing with a database, and then you're also going to be dealing with this.
okay, say thank you.
All righty.
Mr. TC,
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. So I
Yeah.
need to know, like, how do we link World Wide Web with the code?
Sorry.
Like, like how do we link we link internet with the code? Like maybe like I want this code to be on the internet.
Or how do you link with? You have to host your website on the service provider. You host
Okay.
your thing on the service provider. Yeah. So any website that you want to be on the World Wide Web, it has to be hosted by a service provider. So you have to upload your website into the servers of a service provider. Each you've got these guys like we spoke about them in class, like the GoDaddy, Hetzner, Xnilo. We've got other companies like AfriHost, Domains.co.za, like or a lot of those companies there. Amazon, even Google these days, they've got that. So you can host with them, and then they will upload to your website for you, and then you just pay them a certain amount of money.
Okay, are we going to like get to that stage where you show us how to like host, or we learn from ourselves?
I will show you. Like when you are done, I will show you. That is something that we'll do at the end, so that you guys, if you need to upload your what you call this, your portfolio websites, you can do that. Like it's quite cheap. It's around maybe 50 rand, or between 50 and 100 rand a month or so.
Or it's like a subscription thing?
Yeah, it's a subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, because you need also to buy your own domain name. For instance, if you want a domain like KB the developer, and then you can have KB the developer, or Dumi Sani the developer at .co.za. You can have something like that, personalized web address for yourself, as long as you buy that particular domain.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Support. So is there any other question? Excuse me, based on the items that we covered already, because I think today we covered two aspects of our coding there. We had the first thing that we had that just dealt with the data validation, which is what we have at the very top here, and then data validation and how to clear the form and everything else. And then the second part has to deal with the email. That's the second part there that we're dealing with. It has to deal with email and submitting your data from your particular email address, uh, like into your particular email address there. But remember, as I said, that you do not have a lot of this information, because our computer is not literally created for it to do that. Like we cannot see this information now, but later we're going to be able to write something into that email, maybe server or into a database, and then you can see that information that can be sent to you, so that you can see when the user also can be able to see the message that they've sent. Is this a hand? I think I see a hand here.
Hello, hi,
Hi, Pascalina.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not so good.
Yeah.
um, and personally, I struggle to grasp some of the concepts that we covered today. Ne?
Okay. Yeah.
They're from additional validation and input control. Now, my
Uh-huh.
question is, yes, in order for me to, get the gist of everything, what do you then suggest I should do? Because my my RAM today was on one gig.
uh, what you can do is like the stuff that you have done. Try to
Yes.
create a form on your own. Try to create a form
So
on your own. It's like a very simple form. You don't even have to put styling on that particular form. Just create a simple form, very basic, and then try to apply some JavaScript code. Try just do some basic items that you can, and then from there, and then you can apply the validation part, then to see if you can be able to understand. At first, use examples. Maybe for the first 2 or 3 times, use examples, and then after some time, then try to see if you can commit that to memory and try to use it without any examples, without copying the code from anywhere, and see if you can commit it from your memory. But first, try to use it like as I'm saying, there's no way that you're supposed to cram code. So use the information that you have available for now, just for practice purposes, and then after some time, and then you can try to commit it in memory and use different methods and things like that.
All right then. Noted. Thank you so much.
All right. So just create something basic and see if you can use JS for you to create that basic thing. Okay, if you don't have any questions, guys, I think we can close up here today. And then you guys have a very good day. And then we'll meet tomorrow, and then we'll just continue from where we left off tomorrow.
Okay, bye, sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.